When I was a kid, I used to love to read. I still do. Occasionally, there would be a really nice day outside, and my father would come in the house and he'd catch me reading. And he'd take the book out of my hands and he'd say, "Get outside and play ball." When I got older, I was very thankful that he taught me how to play ball. And now it's my turn to tell all of you to get outside, because Sukkot is coming. And on Sukkot, we've got to leave our homes and go outside and live in a hut for that week. Why? God tells us so that we'll know that he had our ancestors, the Israelites, dwell in huts after he took them out of Egypt. Now, there's a common misconception that for those 40 years that the Israelites were in the desert, they were wandering the whole time, the wandering Jews. But that's not true. There were quite a few journeys, but for most of those 40 years, they were living, they were dwelling in only a few places. Now, can you imagine? It's the NFL season. It's begun, and you've invited all your friends over to watch the big game at your house on a Sunday. And Saturday night, as you go to sleep, you realize you don't have a morsel of food in the house. No hot dogs for the grill, no chips, no dips, no beer in the fridge. That would be pretty scary. And yet that was the experience of every one of the Israelites every day during those 40 years. Manna would fall from heaven, but it was only enough for each person for that day. So when each of them would go to sleep that night, there was no food in the cupboard. They had to rely exclusively and completely and have full faith in God that he'd make more manna fall from heaven the next day to provide their basic necessities. He provided their basic necessities then, and he still provides them now. And so once a year, we recreate that desert experience, and we remind ourselves that everything comes from God. We have to put our exclusive faith in him, and that he will provide. We don't have to work on the Sabbath or on the holidays in order to make a livelihood. God will provide. We don't need to steal. We don't need to cheat on our taxes in order to make a livelihood. God will provide. We have to work hard, but at the end of the day, we have to put our faith in him. Now, we can build sturdy walls for our sukkah out of any material, but we can't build them too high, because if they're too high, then we might put our faith in those walls and not in God. And our eyes won't travel up high enough, so we won't realize we're in a sukkah. We won't see the schach, the covering from which a sukkah gets its name. The schach has to grow from the ground, but it has to be cut off from the ground before it's put on the roof of the sukkah. Otherwise, we might put too much faith in nature rather than in God. Now, if at the end of the day, when we relive that experience, because talking about it's not enough, you've got to get outside and live in that sukkah to recreate that experience. And when we do, and when we remind ourselves that everything's in the hands of God and that he will provide, then we'll realize that after we've put in our hard work, we can stop fretting. We can stop worrying and just be happy. And that's why Sukkot is a holiday most closely associated with happiness. Have a very happy Sukkot.